WURM, Journey to the Center of the Earth. Man, each time I say it, I feel like I'm saying warm journey to the center of the Earth. Hey, babe, want to join me on a WURM journey to the center of the Earth? Anyway, this multi-genre video game was developed by a company called Cyclone System, who only have 4 other games attached to their name, as far as I can tell. All released on the Genesis, among other platforms, starting with Zoom, then Kadash, then Shadow Blasters, then Saint Sword, and then their last game, which was in fact WURM. And it only released on the NES. Did WURM do them in? Huh. The game's cover embraced a pure 80s aesthetic. I mean, these people look like they walked off the set from making an exercise video to enthusiastically operate a drill and fight a robot. It's all very bizarre, and you have to admire the roughly translated marketing jargon in the upper right of this ad. This game is depth-defying. It has 3D horizontal and vertical scroll. Huh? Beat that. Has multiple weaponry, cinema style, story and graphics, 20 levels, and get this, 1 meg by 1 meg MMC3 program technology. Can you fathom that? Also, unlimited continue. You only get 1 continue, but you know, it's unlimited. So now that I'm done making fun of everything in view, how does the game actually play? Let's see what's up. The first thing you'll see when you start up the game is one of those highly touted cinema-style cutscenes. And I gotta say, these are well done for the NES. You'll notice pretty quickly that these scenes will often repeat, and they just changed the dialogue at the bottom, but hey, it definitely adds some flavor, and I like the use of color and, well, the cinematic flair they tried to add. Now, the first thing you control in the game is your hover drill tanky thing, aka the WURM. I had assumed that WURM may be an acronym, but apparently it isn't. It's just the name they gave to their multi-configuration vehicle called a VZR. The manual doesn't even indicate what VZR stands for, but this particular VZR is known as the WURM, spelled with a U for some reason. As you pilot the WURM horizontally, you'll see in the upper view of the screen gauges for fuel and shield. These things are pretty self-explanatory, and you can pick up refills as you kill enemies who drop them. Enemy attacks will tick down your shield, and lots of times damage seems unavoidable, but everything follows a set pattern, so some memorization helps. You can alternate the WURM between the hover form, which defaults to a Gatling gun weapon, which you can upgrade throughout the game. You can quote-unquote change the ship, as indicated in the upper part of the screen, to a tank form that allows you to have the Gatling gun and a drill. The drill, as you would expect, allows you to penetrate stone obstructions in your path, just like you see on the cover. Then there's the third form, the aerial form, where the WURM transforms into a super fighter jet that has a laser gun as its base weapon. The aerial form is a bit more fragile, so running into stone with it is a bad idea. These horizontal sections are really nothing special, and they're not going to stand out among other shooters, but I have to laud the layers that they tried to add to make it more than just a simple scrolling shooter. Having to switch between forms and adjust to the specific weapon types each form provides make these sections more interesting than they otherwise would be, I guess. However, the enemies are kind of predictable, and of bland design. Oh no, a bunch of circles. How terrifying. Then, after a rather lengthy screen shake segment, I guess to signify that you've rocked the inner core of the Earth a bit, and another mini cutscene, you transition to the vertical shooting stage. It is a bit more traditional in its presentation. You shoot upward, and objects and projectiles stream down around you in varying patterns. You'll once again be drilling through the occasional rock. There are never any bosses in these shooter levels. You just go until the game decides it's time to stop. Another type of stage parades around as a first-person shooter. I know, I can't believe it either. What else could this game do? But a true first-person shooter would be too ambitious. Although you are shooting in first person here, it's more of a gallery shooter where you can spin in a full circle. But again, I appreciate what they tried to do here, and there is more than meets the eye in these segments. In addition to turning in a circle and firing your weapon to destroy projectiles hurled at you and finding the enemy's weak point, you have to talk to your crew for intel. The more intel you receive, this possibility percentage goes up or down. Your crew makes assumptions about where you should attack the boss and what weapon you should use. And the catch is, not all of their advice is accurate, which is what the percentage is for. It informs you of when you have the greater possibility of landing a critical hit. In fact, it's only possible to defeat the boss when the possibility reaches 100%. The manual considers this a role-playing segment, but it's much more basic than that might insinuate. And you can only ask so many questions of your crew before you have to go back to fighting and dodging the enemy, so it's not like you can spam your chances to 100% and call it done. You have to make it through a few rounds first. It's cool, I guess, but after doing it a couple of times throughout the game, these segments start to feel like a disruption to the pacing and at certain points can just feel confusing. However, the boss designs in these sections are the most interesting of the lot, so at least there's that. The next mode is a side-scrolling platformer mode, and more of an adventure-type segment. You make your way through a labyrinth of tunnels and find clues and other characters that uncover more of the story and open up routes for you to continue through. Some of these end in a boss fight, which typically amounts to simply spamming your shots at them for a few seconds and dodging their jumps. Even in these segments, the enemy design is rather basic. There's not a lot of friction here either. Most of my deaths in the game occurred during the horizontal shooter stages from not having the right ship configuration at the right time and then smashing my ship into rocks. So over the course of 20 stages, you'll alternate between those 4 playstyles a few times a piece on your way to the end. The manual even lays out each of the game's 5 acts and the level types within each, thus spoiling all of your surprises. As advertised, WURM has unlimited continues, and since this game can be rather long, likely taking well over an hour for a first-time player to churn through, there's thankfully a password system. And by the end, you'll have accrued more weapon types to use in the varying segments, which help keep it from becoming too monotonous and dull. The sound effects can be overly shrill at times, but the soundtrack itself is rather decent. And there's a fair amount of music here. Given the number of different stages and cutscenes, it's like they really tried to put together a unique tune for each. The story is, well, pretty strange, but not too difficult to follow as you play thanks to those cinematic cutscenes. The setup is that it's good old 1999, and some strange phenomena have been observed on the Earth's surface. Major earthquakes and volcanoes out of the blue, and the whole planet is in upheaval. In response, world leaders summoned their brightest and best scientists to come together and discuss what's causing all this and ponder what the repercussions could be if the planet continues to violently spew its insides out. The decision was made to mobilize a team of scientists to explore the depths of Earth using the WURM, spelled with a U, for some reason. And that's where you and your comrades come in. And you'll see that's how a lot of the dialogue in those quote-unquote role-playing segments pan out, as each member of your team has a specialty. There's a geological scientist, a couple of engineers, a biologist, etc. So can you and your team of smarty pants scientists brave the horrors that lie in wait on the Earth's inner core? Will you be able to wiggle your worm all the way to the end? Play it to find out. All said, WURM rests firmly on the mantle of overlooked but quality NES games. There's something about the title, or the cover, or even the screenshots that lacked a lure for a lot of players, but once you get your hands on it and experience the different modes for yourself, and see how each segment, while not mind-blowing, are still fun enough when all stitched together, it's easy to appreciate this one for all it is, which is almost everything. And that's going to do it for WURM on the NES. Now, as always, don't wiggle your worm into the rocks. And thanks for watching.